Welcome to the Finance Committee of September 12th, 2024. Tonight we're going to open up the meeting with remarks from Moderator Jim Brady.
Hi. Thank you very much, Doug. Hello, everybody. I just want to come down and say hello because I don't know everybody. Hi, Kathleen.
Nice to meet you.
I just want to thank all of you for agreeing to serve on the Finance Committee. As we all know, it's a very important function. You're the fact checker and the tire kicker against the administration here in the town hall, which I believe is doing a wonderful job. But I think as citizens, our job is to make sure it's all being done properly. For the new appointees that I put on, I'm going to share my thoughts that I shared with them, and that is, I look at the Finance Committee as, I use the reasonably prudent person standard. As you know, I'm a lawyer, and in that business, we do trust business, it's not about not spending money, but if you're going to spend other people's money, and that's the taxpayers' money, you've got to be prudent about it. You've got to be reasonable about it. Doesn't mean you don't spend it, but you've got to be prudent. And that's, I hope, that the philosophy that this committee will hold as you move forward. So thank you very much for your willingness to serve. Town meeting will run pretty much the way it has been running. I went up and saw the last one. I was glad to see that the things that I had done 20 years ago. I was town moderator in the 90s to about 2004, so I'm back. I had dark hair then, now I've got gray hair. Now I've got 3 different replacement parts, but we'll make it. So I expect town meeting. I'm going to do most of the things that Dan did. I think Dan did a great job there. So thank you again. All right, and good luck on your deliberations, and take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do.
All right, we've met and did introductions last week, but we have some new members here with us tonight. So if everyone will indulge me, we're going to go around one more time and just introduce ourselves, how long we've been on the committee, what precinct we're from. I'll follow Denny's lead. So I will start. I am Doug Shea. I've been on the committee since 2018, and I am precinct 7. We can go to Scott.
Scott Wassel, Precinct 6, and this is my 3rd year on the committee.
I was hoping for a fun fact or something like that, but.
Go ahead.
You can.
Well, no, I can't do that. Audrey Grace, I'm in Precinct 6, and I'm same 3rd year on the committee.
Tim Boyle, I got sworn in yesterday morning. So very happy to be here, and I live about 2 blocks that way.
Welcome.
I'm Kathleen Grulich, and I've been on for about 7 years. Is that what we decided? And I'm in Precinct 8.
Steve Hendricks, I've been on Finance Committee, I think this is my 5th year, and I live in Precinct 4.
Ron Ardeen. I was on the Finance Committee for about 10 years, back when Jimmy first became moderator. I stepped down for a few years. I came back maybe about 4 years ago, did 1 year, and I'm back again. I'm in Precinct 2.
Mark Trudell, I've been on the board since 2014, past chairman of 4 years, vice chair for 3 years. Glad to be back.
Josette Burke, Precinct 4. I've been on almost 15th year. I'm going into my 15th year.
Precinct
4.
Oh. Susan Lawson, Precinct 2. I've been on for 14 years, took 1 year off and came back. Glad to be here.
Thanks. I'm Jean Kenny. I'm Precinct 7, and this is my 4th year.
I'm April Dayton. I'm Precinct 8, and I have been on the committee for a week.
I'm Kelly Doucette, Precinct 6, and I'm a newbie also.
Well, welcome again, everyone. I know Jim is doing double duty with a couple of different committees tonight, so we're trying to stall politely. But I don't know, we're going to follow tonight's agenda, Article 12, the middle high school, forgive me, followed by 9 and 10. Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you have any remarks that you want to open up with. And I know you can help elaborate. Yes.
Would you like me to give an introduction?
Sure.
Mr. Chair, Bill Buckley, I chair the school committee, Walpole High School 04.
If you could be so kind as to.
Down and everything.
They called him Billy the Filler.
Gary, want to sit with me or no? Just do my stuff.
I mean, if you're lonely.
I will.
He's inexperienced.
It's colder slowly.
Youth and experience.
Um,
Yes, Mr. Chair.
As I was just kindly reminded, informed, we have a lot of new people who haven't been involved with the whole process, and so if you could go.
I'll start from the beginning. We'll really stall.
Thank you.
In 2013, the Municipal Facilities Master Plan Study, the McGuire Report, identified the need for additional and updated spaces at Walpole High School. We as a body for about 10 years have looked at secondary education in Walpole and the needs there, both at our 2 middle schools and our high school. We were very successful with many of the help of many people in this room in getting the state to agree to our statement of interest and address our middle school needs. And we were just there for a school committee meeting at 5 o'clock. It's fantastic if you haven't been. We hope to have you there soon. But we as a body have not lost sight of the fact that we believe that there is a need throughout our secondary education system. So this proposal is our attempt to address the remaining needs at the high school. As we know, the building, the oldest part, was built in 1907. It is a Frankenstein of a building with many additions, many different spaces, a lot of HVAC needs as well. So in the modern period, the addressing of the space needs began in 2013, and we looked at additional needs, an in-depth review of the high school. So we looked at, first, the science curriculum, the science spaces. The spaces are too small. There's a lot of dead space with cabinetry. Our hope is to, through this proposal, kind of blow that up, create a lot more space. If you, again, to look at our middle school, you see there's a lot of electricity and gas and large table spaces to do more of the 21st century STEM work that we want to prepare our students for. So that is one of the central pieces. As well, we are looking at putting in a field house, and a few of you have already talked to me about, well, why do we want to put a field house in? Because that is the cheapest additional space, round for round, square foot for square foot. Unlike building a full academic addition with 3 layers like a cake, with all of the steel that comes with that, with all of the ductwork, with all of the electricity therein, by building a field house, that allows us to unlock spaces in the building and begin a process of musical chairs that will allow us to move music and performing arts into the old gym, which is one of the smallest gyms in our region. Then would allow us to take where guidance and student services are and move them to where the music department is now. Will allow us to move special education around. Will allow us, because of the middle school project, we have now been able to take the tech program, which was at the Plimpton School, is now at the old Johnson Middle School, and now that space is available for us to bring some of our technology spaces. We have robotics there already. They're there all school year long, so it's a great place for you to go, and we can arrange that to see the work they're doing now. We're hoping to make that whole building really a technology hub for computer science, for robotics, and things of that nature. So this will allow us, without an override, to address a number of these needs to really unlock the potential of the building, as well as do a little work with HVAC as well, and also alleviate some of the safety concerns, do a little more with camera work and the like. Yes, also, for any of you who are friends of the senior center, like my mom, who calls me all the time about it, there are some parking issues at the high school, and we have seen those issues kind of flow down to the neighborhood. This will allow us to have a pretty significant addition of parking, both sort of behind the snack shack where the old softball field would be, and in front of the building as well, to, I think it's 63, thank you, Mr. Kelly, 63 additional spaces, which will help with the overall traffic flow and parking issues as well. We'll also be adding a greenhouse to the side of the current science wing as well, which will allow for a lot more of the earth sciences and things where we're seeing in those fields students are interested in going, and there's a lot more job opportunity for those students who will be beginning their sort of post-secondary career in those type of earth sciences, so we hope to use that space to unlock that as well. That's sort of a very large overview. I know we have the folks from TAPE here and Compass to give a more nitty-gritty piece, but that's where I start. And they just walked in, so isn't that
No,
perfect?
that was perfect timing. We're just killing time.
I think it was edifying, but okay.
Good job, very useful.
Thank you.
Before you
Mr.
disappear,
Tudor.
has the school committee actually voted on the project yet?
We have. We were unanimously in support of the project.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Do we want to, is Mr. Kelly going to present something, or is he just going to ask what? All right.
Wait for Jim.
So, okay, I'm sorry, I missed so first off, sorry, I was working with Capital. We got their vote on record for the Article 12 here. That was the only one missing. So they voted, I'm pleased to announce they voted 5-0-0 to support Article 12. So I don't know what you guys have talked about, but just to kind of give you a broad overview just of the project, we obviously, I'm pleased to report that the bids came in favorably. We're able to go forward with full funding for this project at just about $35.8 million with a bunch of different funding sources listed out. It'll probably be the biggest funding source motions, at least in my time here. We get a lot of old capital that we've been sitting on for the last few years, knowing that this project's coming down the line. We've been saving up. We set up that capital stabilization line. I think this is the third town meeting, the third year we've done it, so put a little bit of money aside. So 3 years in, we're at where we need to be, using some old ARPA funds that the select board have been working to put aside. Walpole Media Corp's kicking in $400,000, and we got about 310 in some old borrowing items, the bond premiums that were realized. So what you have in front of you is just some conceptual art that TAPE has put together for us. Obviously, the project vision was to expand and renovate the high school, knowing full well that we wouldn't be able to do a full renovation or a completely new building at the cost they're going at. You know, we thought Tri-County was really expensive at 215, I think it was, or 50.
222.
222, Mark, thank you. So I think if they went out to bid now to go build that building, it'd probably be well over 300,000. So I think with just about a $40 million project, we're going to be able to get a lot of bang for our buck, make sure that the students, teachers, and administration in the high school are taken care of for at least the next, I'd say, 20, 30 years at least, hopefully, and you know, do some of the improvements to not only the athletic center, but also the science wing, put the greenhouse in there, and the counseling services, renovate that area, and just overall improve the building and the parking lot areas, improve the traffic flow in the building, throughout the facility. So it's going to be a good project. It's going to require a 2/3 vote by town meeting because of all the different funding sources listed there. Particularly, there's going to be some borrowing in there for $25 million. In the old borrowing appropriations require a 2/3 vote, so, and the use of capital stabilization. So it's going to be probably the hottest thing at town meeting to be discussed. That's one of the reasons why we put it at number 12, so everyone will stick around. Any questions? We have Vertex, who's our project manager here. They've seen us through this project. They've worked with us now on the fire station, council on aging, police station, and now the 2 schools. So we have a great relationship going back to 2014 with them. And they get a lot of good people who work with them, and they're close by, which helps. Questions or?
Through you, can you just share a little bit more about why it's important for a town to invest in things like this and to infrastructure for schools beyond the immediate need for the renovation? But what's the return on investment for schools, and why is it important that we have school buildings that are working and modern?
Great, okay. Sure. I think that we see how the Walpole Middle School has really already made some residents and some families choose either to locate here or to perhaps send their children to the public schools in place of private or charter schools. I think at the high school in particular, what we're looking to do by supporting broader academic programs, number one, but also improving the quality of life and increasing academic and social emotional support through the counseling services, is to help us retain a lot of our students who might otherwise choose to go to Tri-County or the Aggie, for example, right? And we know that those are tuitions that we end up paying. And so I think it's in the town's interest to make the high school a place that is attractive to all manner of students, regardless of what their post-secondary plans are. There are some, I think, Bill touched on the fact that that the music department is going to be renovated, and part of that is performing arts. It's Walpole Media Space, it's the film and TV program. So these programs that really make Walpole High School what it is, and that draw in students regardless of what their academic aptitude or their I guess, interest in sort of the core classic academic subjects, it's really to our benefit. And we all know, we had this conversation when we passed the override for the middle school. Good schools means good property values, right? And I think projects like this really bring the community together as well, and that's an intangible benefit for all of us.
Ron? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What's the enrollment at the high school now? 950. 930. And what's it at the middle school now?
860-ish.
Okay, thanks. Mark?
I'm going to get into the schematic layout of what's potentially going to happen. We're not doing any improvements to Common Street, correct? We're not adding a turn lane or anything like that? It's strictly going to stay the way it is, Jim?
No, everything, all the work that's doing is inside the curb.
Inside the footprint, okay. Are we adding a traffic light or anything like that for access to the new driveway?
No, we are not.
And I saw on the very far end, at the Plimpton School end, there's going to be now a dedicated left turn lane. So it's going to be one lane in and two dedicated lanes coming out?
Yes. Right.
It's hard to tell from the
You talking, I'm looking at this
the far end of
slide
the property.
for everyone.
Yeah, far end of the property by Plimpton, where it abuts the next neighborhood. It says left turn dedicated lane.
Yep,
So there's going to be left turn and right turn dedicated and still an entrance lane, correct?
yeah, there's that entrance lane if you're looking in, to the right side, right there.
Okay. It was hard to tell the way it was drawn out. Okay. And so the buses are now going to be front loop, and students and drop-offs will be back loop?
That's your intent, Steve, right?
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Selfishly, I have to ask, I see that the bus loop, you've got to go behind the school for drop-off, but after like a football game, things like that, do you still get to pick up in the front?
Referring to Steve
I've got a band
because-
student, so I got Jim, I guess I just, more of a comment than anything, with the funding sources. We've had some conversations about the old capital sources, and I think what you're doing here is fantastic to kind of save it for a rainy day. But if it would be possible to kind of include these old funding sources as part of like the packet in the fall, I like to see it. I like to know what kind of money's out there, and we rarely, we talk about this, like, I feel like every 2 or 3 years. If it's possible to kind of include the sort of list that has the old closed capital things that we might be able to access, and access
Yeah.
is probably the wrong word, but
So I would say for this town meeting, this is it. We're closing out everything here. As you can see, we're going back as far as '23. I could give you an updated list with the balances on some of the stuff that were appropriated. Yeah, I mean, the last town meeting was 23, so yeah, I can certainly provide you with that list, if there's anything else.
Yeah, I'd appreciate it, just to know, just to have as a reminder. I was curious about specifically, and it's getting off topic, but one of the old capital items was the design of the Elm Street Bridge design. And there's 150,000 left in that. It just seemed like,
That is because we actually were, at the time, that was the years that we were actually getting ARPA funds, and we really weren't clear what the use of the ARPA funds, so we went forward, asked for it, and we funded that through ARPA. That's why there's so much there. And for those of you who might be new to the committee, ARPA is, Walpole got about $7 million in ARPA funds. The majority of it, about 2/3 was controlled by the county. You had to submit an application to that, because the counties in all of Massachusetts and throughout the country got most of the money directly. So we had to apply. There's a whole portal system that Jody's been working through, and it was mostly capital improvement projects, whether it be water projects. Some of it went towards school projects, and we're closing out most of that now. And I can get you an updated list as to what we spent the funds on, but it was definitely put to good use, for sure.
and one more semi-selfish question. I'm wondering about the alternates, and I'm just curious why alternate 2, with adding trees, shrubs, and plantings, was ahead of the driveway extension. To me, trees and shrubs is a lower priority, and I'm just not sure why it was done in that way. I'm sure there's a great reason.
I'm sure the school committee, but as they get their answer, Patrick just texted me and reminded me that the old capital list is published each year in the town report. We started doing that, but I can certainly get it to you.
Thank you, Patrick.
Well, for one, the trees and shrubs were a lot cheaper. And I think we'd examined initially a much more aggressive driveway change. And after discussions with public safety, and we're doing things like doubling up on buses by making it solely buses on the way in, those were no longer needed. But we're also taking out a ton of trees for the construction as well.
Thank you.
There's no pool either, Doug, I'm sorry.
Not yet. We'll get there. I told my daughter that it was on the 8th floor, or the roof, for first year. Mark?
Through you, Jim, are there any other old capital items on this list that are basically were replaced by ARPA, or is it just the bridge?
Just running down, I believe the drainage on June Street, we addressed some of that through ARPA too.
I kind of thought this would happen. Staying on old debt, if Article 12 fails, some of these projects which had no cost was because we were planning on rolling them into the high school project. Would those articles still be valid to turn around and say, yes, we are going to spend $600,000 on HVAC work, and we're going to spend $600,000 on renovating the driveway and access to the high school?
So if it fails, the way I look at this, and I'm looking at the money remains in those accounts because they weren't appropriated.
But I
So
mean,
like,
without further action by town meeting, we could turn around and say, yes, we're going to do the retaining wall in the driveway because the funding is still here and dedicated.
yeah, and we already did the retaining wall. That's the money left over. But the two I'm looking at is the high school HVAC, the third one from the bottom, and the
Yeah.
driveway, as you mentioned. Those are the big ticket items.
Well, I was assuming that there would have to be additional retaining wall if we did extend the driveway, so that's why I was saying those funds might still need to be dedicated. Okay.
Josette?
Through you, the ALPA funds, they have to be used, correct me if I'm wrong, by this December?
They need to be, the project needs to be identified by the December 24, needs to be completed by December 26.
So we're within that range?
Yes, we've identified, and
This is the end of the funds, yes?
this will expend all the
This
funds,
will
unless
extend.
there's a couple of projects out there for DPW that if they come under budget, or if you can think of 2 water projects, they'd need to be reappropriated, but yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Does anyone want to make a motion?
Make a motion.
That was Kathleen?
Kathleen, yep. So, I'm probably gonna need help. I make a motion for Article 12, with the following funding sources. Is this what I'm,
You could
I don't
do
know
it,
what direction.
if you don't mind, you could do it a few different ways. You could explain out all the funding sources, or you could say, recommend favorable action on Article 12 as, for the funding sources as listed out in the memo dated.
sure, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm making a motion for favorable action on Article 12, with the funding sources as listed in the memo from Jim Johnson on September 3rd.
Second?
Second by Sue. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain? All right, 1300.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you at town meeting. Take care.
Nice work.
All right, next we have the capital budget items.
I know Ed's here to review that with you. I also have some of the bigger department heads here to address any specific questions that may come up.
So I'm not sure how you want to do this.
So I think, do you have a list of the capital?
Yes, yep.
It'd be much easier for me if we could go right down the list, and I have it in order that way, and then,
Okay.
If I could just say one thing, Ed. So, two articles here, Articles 9 and Articles 10. Articles 9 is going to require a supermajority vote because all the four funding sources listed out here is basically cash on hand. Article 10 is going to be a borrowing, and it's limited to those few items listed out there, all of which we've been planning for, and it's in the debt spreadsheet that we have there. With the fire truck, same with the ambulance, we know that we're not going to have the products in hand for 2 or 3 years. That's how much of a backlog they're at, even the ambulance, which kills me. But it's just more or less setting aside that money. It fits into our borrowing schedule, knowing we're not probably going to borrow for 2 or 3 years. So, sorry, Ed, go ahead.
so if we can maybe go by department and we'll list what is under each department, and then we could, if you want to discuss that, or if you want to just move on or whatever, so. Okay, so in Article, Article 9, right? The first one was Article 9, I have the wrong number here. This is the Board of Assessors, it's business personal property. It's a state mandated survey that they have to do. They have to go out and take inventory of all of the properties, the taxable properties for commercial properties. This is mandatory every 5 years, and that was $56,810. And that's what was requested and approved.
Any questions? All right.
Okay, the next is the Recreation Department. Blackburn Hall improvements and repairs to the preschool area, the field scoreboard and buzzer, and then pool repairs. The Blackburn was requested $500,000, and it's recommended $100,000 to start some of the renovations, which included the bathrooms and the flooring and just sprucing it up. And I think it was also maybe replacing the rampway going down there. The school buzzer, that was taken off of the capital budget as it was provided by a private donation. And pool repairs, the $75,000 for that would be for any upcoming repairs to keep the pools up and running.
Question? On the pools, my impression I'm getting that instead of replacing them, we're just gonna continue with the Band-Aids and take it as long as we can, as opposed to putting in a whole new setup, which is going to be millions of dollars, correct?
At this time, yes. We looked at it, and it was part of the ARPA request that the select board considered. Initially, they funded, I think it was maybe 500,000 or 600,000. After looking at it, we sent it out. Vertex actually assisted in doing a master plan study on those. The price tag, it wasn't a few $1 million. It was, I think, on the cheap side, it was like $7 million. And the thought process, the board backed off once they saw that, and the thought process is, this is a pay-as-you-go type of program. You participate, my family doesn't use it, but maybe your family does, and it's one of those that you pay your pool tags or you do your daily pass at $10. Would we love something that they're building down in Norwood right now, in South Norwood? Of course we would. They're using Community Preservation Act funds to fund that, and we never accepted the Community Preservation Act, so I'd like to hope someday we're there. It just is so hard for me to wrap my head around. I know people who get a pool built for $100,000. How is it costing us $7 million to get one built? And I got an answer, but I didn't really like the answer.
You didn't like it. All right, thank you.
I have a question about the bird fields. So it's part of recreation, but it also has to do with parks. Where did he go? Is he in the back? So I was curious about the fields. We lost fields at Bird because of the construction. Now that the construction is being done, I'm not sure if we're getting 2 fields back.
So I can speak to that, even though it's not on capital. We actually talked, myself, Superintendent Goff, and Mike Fisher talked briefly with the chair of the building committee. There are funds left over. We're in actually very good shape with the middle school project. So much so that I've asked them to look at, this has been on my list for about a year or so, year plus, sidewalk and roadway and public safety improvements generally around the building and along East Street, Washington Street, and wherever else the repairs need to be made. And also the other item on there is, what's in the contract now is they restore the fields back to where it was before. There's that big pile of dirt you see on East Street. We saved about $200,000 by putting that pile of dirt there. Their contract, they have to restore it back, restore the irrigation back, but there's a proposal that's set to be considered by the building committee to design some better laid out field space there, a walk-around trail and everything. I'm optimistic, and I know the superintendent is too, that we'll be able to address, some needs down there.
Thank you.
Very minimum, it is gonna go back to what it was before.
And that's what I was hoping. It was not a capital item, but I guess my concern from a recreation standpoint is that we've got those 1A fields that are being used by high school kids, which is fine because the construction is there, but we're losing money by not being able to rent it out to groups. And that money that we recoup through the field fees goes into the turf funds. And so that is how I tie it back to capital in a roundabout way. So thank you for that. Any other questions on recreation?
Next would be community and economic development. This is for a study for the Memorial Park area, a master plan. It was noted in a recreation plan from a few years ago that we maybe try to enhance and expand our current recreation areas. And there is land over there, extra land, and more land available at Memorial Pond, which they would like to put to use. So this would be just for a study and give us some ideas on what can be done there.
Ron?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. So Ed, is that beside the pool?
Yeah, I think it would be. It's like the field, there's an open field beside the pool. And
Behind the
there's
baseball,
some land in the
Little
back.
League field?
Jim, how much land is in the back there? Is there?
I don't have that written down in my notes, but it is, it goes all the way back around that, it loops around where the IA club is. I'd say it's 2 to 4 acres at a minimum. The initial thought on this one is to look at improving the parking not only across the street here, but also in one of the master plans we had for the pool was adding parking, not where there's a little river that cuts through there, but kind of across before Diamond Street and near the IA club, somewhere in there. There was some dry space there. So.
Okay. Thank you.
That's it. Next would be the Cultural Council. They were requesting $12,000. This is a new council, a new group, and they want to support arts and crafts and cultural events. And what they would do is just, these arts groups would apply for grants, and this is what they would do. They would support them through the grants. And it's something new that they're gonna try and give it a go, right?
This could be one of those things where you say, well, that's really an ongoing expense, but they came in on October 23rd last year, made a great presentation to the select board of some of the programs they offer between promote health, wellness, economic vitality. The board was supportive of it, but at that point, I was already kind of into the budget season. The board looked at me and said, can we, well, maybe through capital, and I think my thought process on this is, let's see how they do, let's give them this money, see what they do. If they're able to continue it over the next few years, it's gonna be an ongoing operating expense that they'll have to come in, but that's where we're at now.
While we're on that kind of topic, because that was the question that I was gonna ask, because this didn't really seem like a capital expense to me. But then I started to look through some of the other requests, and I think the question that I was gonna ask you, Jim, is, we're doing the capital budget, but a lot of these things are coming through free cash. And so I know that we have a capital expense policy. I know in my business, we have a very specific capital expense policy, thresholds, useful life, things like that. But I wasn't sure, it seems like we kind of treat things not so much as capital when they're paid with free cash. And I'm not sure if that's just my interpretation, or if you guys look at free cash items in one way versus true capital in another to justify life cycles and amounts and things like that.
No, generally, it's, a capital item is defined, I think it's in the bylaws or charter, $5,000 or more, greater life of 5 years plus, or something like that. Besides the cultural council, which specific item were you thinking?
I was looking at some of the software, and I forget if it was IT. It seemed more like it was licenses as opposed to product development. For me, that's, if you're buying the most recent version of Microsoft Word or whatever, that's an operating expense. If you're upgrading software, that's a capital expense, is how we kind of treat it in my world. So this was the one that caught me, because this did not seem as though it really applied for capital, and you kind of explained that, so thank you. But the other one that caught my eye was this. I forget which group it was. It might have been the police with some of their items, but I remember seeing the booklet, and it seemed like it was more of a license as opposed to a IT development type thing. And so that was it. And I can figure it out, but I'm.
You want to speak to it, Chief?
Yeah, so I think the one you're referring to is the Rave Mobile contract, is that what you're talking about?
No, it was, look at the book. It was a cheaper one.
We have an IT request on that for replacing infrastructure within the police department that has been getting older as years go by and the station gets older. So we had 2 requests on there, both IT related. One was for the reverse 911 system that we would get a better deal on if it was paid over a longer period of time. And the other one was for infrastructure inside the PD. So I'm not sure which one you're talking about.
No, it does, I don't know that it was you.
Okay, maybe it wasn't.
It seemed more like a software, like a off-the-shelf type of thing that you could get from Staples. And I don't remember but yeah, I don't know that was you. It was.
So I can say, it seems like just yesterday that we renovated, built a new police, new fire station. 2018 is when we get in there, because we commemorated all. I remember we did all the buildings in 1 year. We opened them all, and, we knew going into that, generally on the 911 system and a lot of this stuff, 5 years, and then we have to look at everything again, and hey, 6 years later, we're asking you to consider it, so.
Can I jump in on the arts?
Please.
I'm just wondering how this group, if you know, how this group relates to the Mass Cultural Council, who typically provides funding for these things.
Hi, I'm Sarah McCracken.
Could you, thank you.
I will hobble as quickly as I can. Hi, I'm Sarah McCracken. I'm the treasurer of the Walpole Cultural Council. We are one of the 329 local cultural councils that the Massachusetts Cultural Council funds each year. They take a pool of state funds and send those out to each of the cultural councils, and we distribute those through grants for arts, nature, music, and cultural diversity programs.
So through you, I thought you were a new group, but you were the same group that has been doing this?
We are the
all
same.
along.
It's a new request from our group. We haven't come forward requesting funds from the town before. But what we've found is that the number of requests that we're receiving has far outpaced our increase in the percentage of funding from the state each year. This year, our increase in our increase in granted funds is 4.1%. The last fiscal year, it didn't increase at all. It remained flat. And so when we look at all of the requests that we're getting from the schools, programs that support the senior center, the library, public events on the town common, we've done virtual events. We try to make sure that they're accessible to all members of the town. We want to be able to support as many of those programs as possible, and this would double our impact.
Sure, I'm all for it. I will say, today would have been my father's 96th birthday, and he was the president of the Walpole Arts Council for years. So I'm fully on board here. But I just wanted to know that I didn't want us to be starting a new group that was in competition with the group that was already existing.
No, we are the same.
So don't fight amongst yourselves. Thank you, you're doing good work.
Thank you.
I probably should have said no to us, because they didn't know we had that council, so, until they came. But anyways, it seems like a great thing they're doing, so, supporting it.
Through you, Jim. Does the Cultural Council currently have a budget line item within our operating budget?
No, it's easy enough for Jody to create one.
So we couldn't, under the previous article of adjusting budgets, because there was no budget to adjust, we could not add funds this year to the budget.
What's that, Mark? Sorry?
Is that because there is no existing budget under the previous article for current year budget adjustments, you can't create a budget line under that article to fund.
Oh, so this one will just, Jody will create account number XYZ,
Right.
put it in there, but as we were just whispering, as we're setting up the budget, or next year, whenever it
next
is,
year's budget, it
it's
could be
easy
there.
enough to go in and change it. We've done it, Green Communities comes to mind. We just added an account number in there, so, yeah.
Well, I was just referencing that we couldn't go and amend a budget that didn't exist. So this
Right
funds
now.
has to come through the capital program, can't be an adjustment to operating this year.
Yeah.
Next year again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is that next? All right, thank you. Next is public safety, the police. This is for duty weapons. They would like to replace their current 40-millimeter weapons with 9-millimeter weapons. The current weapons were purchased in 2017, and they're showing fatigue. But also, the 9-millimeters are lighter and more accurate, and they also have a larger capacity. Enough? Is that good? So, yes.
Through you, the duty weapons, how many?
45.
45, is that
Yeah, 45,
inclusive of the holsters and everything? Or is it more?
I'm sorry, what was the question, ma'am? I was checking that.
No
55,
problem.
that's what I was asking. How many duty
Yeah,
weapons are
how
there?
many?
So I believe it's 55 duty weapons.
55, I had,
Okay, is that inclusive of the holsters and everything that goes with it?
Yes, the 91,000 includes weapons, holsters, advanced optics, lighting, ammunition, everything that we need.
The ammunition, is it comparable to what you already have, or is it, usually they have their specific ammunition per pistol?
Yes, we'll be replacing that with new ammunition that's also included in that 91,000.
And what do you do with the existing ammunition in the interim?
Anything that's not used by the time we transition, our armorers are looking into how to essentially trade it in or develop some kind of system where we can swap them out for what we are going to need forward.
Okay, thank you.
Ron?
Will the officers need additional new training on these? They will. So is that outside the budget, or it's covered within the budget?
So the training that we're going to get with these will be incorporated into our annual training. Every year, we have to go to the range twice a year. This will just be incorporated into that as part of that training, so it's already accounted for.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, next, all right, next would be a marked cruiser. This replaces a 7-year-old unmarked cruiser that has 90,000 miles on it. And that request was for $78,000, and I witnessed it in the parking lot. It's beat up. But they're replacing the unmarked one with a marked cruiser. Next would be IT replacement. Replacing a 9-year-old, replacing 9-year-old equipment in phases. This is phase 3 of 7. Much of it is unable to be upgraded at the current time. It's just exceeded its life expectancy, so. Question? Okay, next is Rave Mobile. This is the reverse 911 system. The current contract expires at the end of this year. The new one would extend it, the new contract would extend to 2029. And their request was for $32,500.
I gotta say, that sounds a whole lot more exciting than that.
Excuse me?
That sounds a whole lot more exciting than the 911 system.
Yeah.
When I first saw it, I'm like, no, I'm not recommending it. Oh, yeah.
Rename that.
Nobody knew what it was. You good? You good?
I have a question for you. Going back to the marked cruiser, and you're transferring it over to another marked cruiser, correct?
No, so we'll be trading in our unmarked traffic unit, which will be replaced with a marked unit.
Okay, because it's down, all right, my misunderstanding. But is all the accessories, the lights and everything
Yes.
going to be inclusive of that? Nothing extra?
Nope, everything's included.
Thank you.
Any more questions on the police department?
Live scan.
Live
Did we
scan.
get, oh, I'm sorry.
Excuse me?
The live scan, sorry. I
Oh,
thought-
yeah. Yeah, the live scan. That's a fingerprinting system. The current one is 15 years old and is out of warranty. You actually, I think there's 2 parts to this. One is for criminals and the other is for employment, I think. So they can keep track of everything that way, and it's, excuse me?
Firearms licensing too.
Yeah. So, okay. Okay, next we have the fire department. Their first request is to replace the 2019 ambulance. It's actually, we're ordering it now because it's 36 months delivery, and it's the same thing, it'd be in kind, and that is for $430,000, and that would be out of the ambulance fund.
Ed, is this, excuse me, is the price on this locked in, no matter when it comes in?
Yeah, so I believe, I spoke to Chief and the Assistant Chief about this. The price is locked in on the vehicle. We're not buying the equipment that comes with it, because that would have been about another 100 or so thousand.
150,
Yeah, same with the fire truck, because the thought process here is, we have to buy this equipment, the stretcher, the hoses, whatever else. They have to store it, and by the time we get around to it, they're a couple of years old. We're just probably gonna come back to capital as we're getting closer. We're gonna know well ahead of time when the trucks will be in, and outfit both the vehicles.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, how many ambulances do we have now?
3.
3? So 1 in East Walpole and 2 here.
One in East Walpole, and 2 at Center Station.
Thank you.
Just a quick, we only run 1 out of Station 1. The third ambulance is a spare ambulance, so if one of the 2 front lines go down, and we take that spare ambulance and reallocate it to whichever station needs it. It's also available for recall, if they have recall personnel, or appropriate recall personnel, we're able to staff the ambulance and send them out as the call.
They certainly get their use.
Yeah.
Well, they get the
The longer runs now.
And more. The number of runs.
Okay, the next item would be the EMS equipment. This is a chest compression system and is for both adults and children, right?
Correct.
Right. And it includes 8 graphic displays, which I guess is easier to read. It consists of 2 units, and we'll be trading in 2 units, and we'd be receiving $5,000 each on each trade-in. So a total of $10,000 on the trade-ins. Right? And that request is for $55,000 out of free cash.
Is that minus the $5,000?
Excuse me?
Is that minus the $5,000 per item?
That's included, yeah, that's a bottom line.
Thank you.
Next, we have software upgrades. This is to install mobile data units on the department equipment. Will allow for real-time information for communication, navigation, and incident reporting. And I think it was a total of 10 units was included, right?
Yes.
That request was for $96,259, and that would be out of free cash. Next, we have computer equipment and IT upgrades. This will replace the firewall security system. It replaces aging equipment. Request was for $17,744.
And this was, just for clarification, this was where I had the questions about whether or not it was appropriate, but.
Okay, the next item is Station 2 relocation study. This would be to explore locations for a new fire station. The existing one is not conducive to full-time use. It never was made for a full-time fire station, and it would, and it's tough to store the modern equipment in there. Also, it has to be able to incorporate female firefighters where right now, you know, before it was just the males, and so they would have to make accommodations for the female firefighters.
Sue?
Through you. So this is to replace or possibly relocate the East Walpole Fire Station?
Correct.
And so the study would be looking at, in addition to cost of a building, like locations, I guess, because,
This is just to find a location for it, some property that might be available, and do a study on it. It does not include the design, correct?
No, design would be much more. So I worked with Brian Jarvis from Vertex years ago before COVID, when Chief Bailey was still here, and I went to him and I said, Brian, how much do you think, and that was when we had just finished up this station, and he said, oh, you're looking at probably at least $10 million. If we had it for $10 million at this point, that would be a godsend. I think by the time we finally get around to, if we ever able to do this, it's gonna be very costly. Just building costs have gone up so much since we've done those buildings in 18. This would more or less look at, you know, where can we locate it? Ideally, I know Chief Barry and the fire department would like something near the Route 1 corridor so they could just pull out, go north or south with relatively little effort. We've looked at it on our own. There's no real desirable property that the town owns right now there. I've approached the new owners of the Walpole Mall and said, hey, they're looking at doing a lot of upgrades there in the next probably 5-10 years. Could you carve out 2-3 acres for the town if we're able to come to an agreement on something? I wasn't told yes, but I didn't get a no either, so I'm hoping that's maybe still open. But this would more or less get them some conceptual plans after we locate it. You know, the rule of thumb with all this construction that we've built is, you know, 10% for design, basically. So this is just gonna really get them started. Initially, the request from the chief was for $500,000. I went back and looked at the most recent feasibility study we had was for the high school, and that was a few years ago. That was $200,000, so that's where I get the 300. You know, we have done some work. We used some of the ARPA funds on that one. We added some bedrooms in there, as Ed mentioned. We've repointed the bricks and improved the masonry out there. But it's a lot of Band-Aid stuff. I mean, that building was built in 1911. Yeah. So,
Oh, it's got a lot of life
Yeah,
left.
it's a postage sample.
It's a solid building, it hasn't fallen.
Firefighters who work out of that building, some of them park in that little driveway, but a lot of them park next door. And when there's a callback, they park wherever they need to get into the building. So just starting to look at it.
Okay, thank you.
Through you. So the idea is still to cover East Walpole in a timely fashion. So you're actually looking for Route 1 frontage for the most part, or quick access to Route 1 at a traffic light that you can override?
I'd say quick access or frontage would be ideal, but,
Quick access, yeah, it doesn't do us much good to put us in a neighborhood.
Right, you have
So,
to
yeah, so
dodge all
obviously
the,
an ideal location, and that's bringing it out.
Would you be looking as far south as opposite the Big Y? Because there's that property that there was originally planning to do a hotel opposite the gas pump there. That's
Behind
behind
Applebee's.
Arby's. If that property is still available, that would be considered quick access, because you're coming out and you're right at a light you can override.
That's
and head
already
north or south.
spoken for by Sharon.
Yeah.
so that property, they are going forward with
They
the
are going
hotel and
forward
that
with
one.
that,
Never mind.
No, yeah, no.
We have that one and another one coming into town too, so there's 2 more hotels.
No, I was just trying to visualize how far south you would be willing to go for access to Route 1.
I think we're looking at the whole thing, up and down, however, obviously they can respond so much quicker to that side of town, so.
But you go much farther below the Big Y, and now it's quick access to East Walpole is now from Center Station.
Yeah.
You're still trying to meet a community without having to redirect yourself another direction. Okay.
So this is a combination location study and feasibility study?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone else on the fire department?
No, if you see, their request was for 500,000, it's recommended, and we voted 300,000 out of free cash for that.
Thank you.
All set? Okay, next would be Public Works. Engineering Department, this would be to repair, replace the Pine Street culvert, which is near Ganawati Road on the other side of Route 1. With all of the rain lately and stuff, it's been compromised and it needs to be replaced. And actually, that road is like, it's the only way in, so they would have to, it needs to be done. Their request was for 700,000, and it was recommended at 700,000, but 450,000 would be out of free cash, and 250,000 would be out of sewer retained earnings.
I was just say, that's another reason for the trees in the high school, because the fewer impervious surfaces we have, the less we have water runoff, overloading our culverts and drains, storm drains.
True. Next would be stormwater infiltration basin at Jarvis Farm. This is for water filtration to separate any debris and chemicals before it enters the pond or the recharge area. Their request was for 102,000, and that's what was recommended out of water retained earnings. Okay. Next would be bridge repairs at South Street and Stone Street. This was mostly for masonry and railing repairs. The request was for 350,000, and it was voted on and recommended $100,000. And that would be out of free cash.
I guess I'm curious why it went down by so much.
I think we're gonna try to do a lot in-house.
I think, the reason why
Not Stone Street.
reduced the request was because he's currently negotiating with Canadian people that are going to replace the culvert on their property. And he was gonna try to get a larger financial contribution out of them.
You were right, sorry, I was making a note to myself about the last article, but, yeah.
I'll remind you the way you think.
He is right on that one, so basically what's coming forward is committee and the responsible parties have approached us a few times. We all, myself and the police department, along with Board of Health, Conservation, and Rick, walked that area back almost a year ago. It was December 23. And, they want to daylight the culvert, and do all this work down there just to, because that culvert that runs underneath there has reached its life expectancy. I think it was built in 93 or 97. And Carl went in there one day and said, it's a mess under there. When they're doing that, or whenever it comes, when the water is diverted, we're gonna need to repoint and rehandle that masonry in there. So my ask is, hey, while you're under there, why don't you fix that for us, because you're gonna be using town property. I have a bunch of other asks too, but, yeah.
Where's the intersection of South and School?
Yeah, I'm struggling to figure out where this is.
It's directly across from the senior center. And
Yeah.
you have the new building that's there that the EPA has put up on the right-hand side. And then you have the lot. That used to be all trees, and they were gonna replant all the trees. But then they said, oh, well, wait, because the roots, I've been doing this since 1990s. The roots are gonna go into the burrito and XYZ, so you can't park. Now they wanna open it up, and as far as I'm concerned, as a butter, is that they know they're gonna have to repair it, because it's their responsibility. And it's better for them to open it up, because I think it will probably be cheaper for them than to replace the whole thing as is.
My note here is the repairs to the School Street, little bridge there, Carl's trying to design it and permit it at the same time. So there's no intersection right there, but.
Oh, they're
two of them.
Okay, it's two
I
different.
was thinking to myself,
No
is that a
intersection.
typo, or, and I'm looking at these
School
notes.
Street.
Yeah,
We have School Street, he said Stone Street.
yeah.
And that's the confusion.
Oh, is it?
There's two bridges.
Two different bridges.
Two different
Nobody's ever
bridges.
heard either.
Right.
There's even school and South don't intersection.
No, they do not. That's all right.
Jim, so next Tuesday, there's a presentation at the library with regards to a dam that nobody owns, but we're gonna have to take responsibility for it.
So right now, what you're referring to is the Bird Pond Dam right there. DCR's come in, and basically, we brought it to their attention. It's been on my radar since I've gotten here. Rick and Carl have told me it's been horrible for the last 20, 30 years at least. And there's no owner to it. DCR has taken, responsibility with the help of our state delegation to come in, invest the funds needed to improve that area. They've given the select board a couple of options, basically. Do you want to drain it down, or do you want to keep it as a pond? There's pros and cons each way. So the select board said to them, you know what, we don't want to make this decision right now. Let's take it, why don't you have a community forum, and then get some feedback, then come back to us in October, lay out the options. It's a different part of town, but that's, we're dealing with it.
The state is offering to support design and fix of the item, and then we're taking responsibility for it after.
Part of the
fix.
catch is, one of the options is you're gonna take ownership of it, and we've
They'll
pushed
fix it
back on
first.
that, yeah. But ultimately, it's such a high hazard down there,
I know.
that goes, that, H and V right there, they'll wash out, and, yeah,
Hollywood and
and all of South Norwood will, so it needs to be addressed.
So we would take ownership after.
I believe that's the option that they're
Kind of like
pursuing.
1A. They'll fix it up, but then we own it.
Exactly.
So through you, the question I have is, why isn't it possible to track the owner of this property?
No one's been able to find him. It's Lloyd Martin, right? That's the name?
Lloyd Martin, if you check the address, it comes back to a UPS store in East Providence.
Yeah. So they haven't been able to track the person down. Yeah.
I smell a
Disappeared.
rat.
Yeah,
That's been going on for years, though.
very long time.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, so there's really two different dams, right? There's one down by, the Hoagie Bear, the old Hoagie Bear, and then there's one further up, about in the middle. Isn't that right, Rick?
Yes, this one is the one that's directly in behind Hoagie Bears.
Okay. So, what's this, is there no problem with the other one? The
So
one further
you were
up?
actually, that's Article 10.
Oh,
That's
okay.
Allen Dam right here. That's the one that's, you wouldn't know it's a dam. I think that's the
No,
one.
I think.
No, I'm talking about,
No,
right,
this is at Hollywood.
it's half a mile up from the one we're talking.
Heard of any issues with that one?
Okay.
Okay, wrong one. Yeah.
Jim, you think it helpful?
We gotta get the vote.
All set?
All right, I think that's all set for engineering.
So next would be Highway Division. This would be for roadway paving and improvements, sidewalks and parking lots. And the paving will be done according to the pavement master plan or priorities, which roads are in really bad shape. I request, Jim, you'll have to check my numbers here, but the request was for $12,105,000. And.
2,105,000.
What did I say?
Well.
No, excuse me, 2,105,000. And then the recommendation I had is $1,843,000. And that was $788,000 out of Chapter 90 and $1,055,000 out of free cash.
Sure, so I can break that down a little bit further, too. So the intent here is $400,000 goes towards the paving of the SM LaRusso complex, $75,000 for the pavement markings that Drew does each year, the long lines, that's how he wrote it, basically, lines in the middle of the road, and the hot fiber crack ceiling at $80,000. The rest of the funds will go towards just paving throughout the town. And, if the bids come in better for, of course, the SM LaRusso fields, which I'm optimistic they will, funds will go right towards road improvements, road sidewalk improvements.
Ron?
When we talk about paving, where do we stand on June Street and Bird Street?
Sure, so June Street will be done this year, this construction season. Bird Street will be next construction season.
So Bird won't be finished till next year?
Correct. They'll bring the current trench up to grade, smooth it out as much as possible, but that'll be done under the water project next season, next spring. We want to give it a year to settle. Okay, next would be a two 10 poly sander units. These are smaller sanders that would fit into the 1-ton dumps. They'd be more maneuverable for smaller locations, and that request was for $60,000 out of free cash. Next would be Parks and Recreation. The first item would be the Synthetic Field Turf Replacement Fund. This is money that we try to add each year. It's put into escrow for the future replacement of the fields, and that's for $175,000 out of free cash. We do have 3 synthetic fields in town. Next was an enclosed trailer, transport equipment trailer, but that is not recommended to be funded this year.
What about the mower?
Excuse me?
The mower, you skipped one.
Oh, did I skip one?
Yeah, the mower replacement.
Yes,
for
I did, I'm
23.
sorry. Yeah, the mower replacement. This replaces a 7-year-old, 72-inch Toro mower. And that request was for $23,500, and that's out of free cash. That's recommended. Yeah. And the enclosed trailers, no. And then next, the fourth one would be hazard tree removal. This is something we try to do every year. This is for the removal of the larger problem trees that they have to have an outside company come in with a higher bucket or a crane to do. And that's $25,000 out of free cash, which was approved.
Josette?
Ed, what do we have for balance for the synthetic field?
Jody and I were just talking about, it's just around.
Great minds think alike.
About 500,000.
Okay,
And,
thank you.
The rule of thumb when we were building these, when we did
It's
Turco.
increased a lot from the 50,000 a year.
Oh, yeah, it has. But it's about 500,000 to 600,000 per field in today's dollars to replace those. So the thought process here is, the
That's
recreation department's taking in funds through their revolving fund for field rental, as Doug mentioned, and then this will offset it like we did with Turco a few years back.
Thank
How often do the fields have to be replaced?
They say 10 to 15, we got 12 years out of Turco.
Where are the 3 fields through you?
So Turco and the 2 fields
SM
up at,
LaRusso, 1A.
I'm sorry, Turco?
and the SM LaRusso fields.
Okay.
Yeah.
2 there.
Yeah, that counts as 2.
Infield groomer replacement.
Yep, the infield groomer replacement, this is a 15-year-old machine, and this is what they groom the infields of all of the fields, the baseball, softball fields. And that request is for $35,000, and that is recommended out of free cash. Next, would be vehicle maintenance. Number 223 is a Volvo loader. It's a 2007. It's a 17-year-old with motor issues, and it's rusting also. And that is for $320,000 out of free cash.
And that's to replace it?
A replacement, yes, a new unit, replacement.
Is there any trade-in value with it?
Excuse me?
Is there any trade-in value with it?
Yes, I don't know what that value would be. I would guess somewhere probably in the $20,000 range.
It's better than nothing.
So what we'll do is, we'll see what we can get for a trade on it. If we're not satisfied with that, we'll put it to public surplus.
Thank you.
Okay, next would be number 552. This is a 2008 F-250 Ford utility body truck. The current truck has, this is to replace a current truck that has 130,000 miles on it with extensive rotting. That request is for $85,000, and that would be out of free cash. Next will be number 349. It's to replace a 2013 F-150 Ford pickup, 4x4 pickup truck. This truck currently has 100,000 miles on it and with a severely rotted frame. That request is for $65,000, and that would be out of free cash.
Mark?
Through you, do those two Fords also double as small snow removal or sander trucks?
The 250 does.
The F-250 would, the F-150 would not.
Couldn't carry the sand?
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you for putting the years and the mileage, and also identifying that on the marked police cruiser, because I know that's something we asked for in the past, so thank you.
It was very nice. The night of our meeting, the DPW and the police and fire had the equipment that was to be replaced and put in the parking lot next door, so we get
Nice
to
to
view
hear.
it, and there's no doubt.
You didn't offer to buy it from them, right?
Okay, next would be building maintenance, and that would be for a partial roof replacement for a failing roof at the Boyden School. This was brought to the town's attention through the consultant's report. That request is for $450,000, and that would be out of free cash. Next, there was a request for an emergency generator. This would be to replace a 40-year-old generator at the building maintenance shop at the DPW yard. Request was for $160,000, but that was not recommended to be funded this year. Next would be a towable lift. This is a portable lift that can be transported by towing with a pickup truck or some sort of truck. It'd be safer and more useful than ladders available to all public works departments. I don't know if you got a picture of that, but it's, I have one in here someplace.
I Googled it. It was impressive. I
But
didn't think you could do
It's a
that.
lift, and they have the outriggers, and it goes up. It's probably a lot better than climbing ladders. So that request is for $160,000, and that was approved with free cash.
45,000.
45.
All right.
The 160 was for the one above.
Yep. Yeah, that was for the towable lift, 160,000, wasn't it?
You said the wrong value.
Total lift, Eddie, is $45,000.
Oh, okay, wait a minute. Oh, did I copy that
generator
twice?
was
Okay,
160.
I'm sorry.
They're small numbers.
Sorry, okay, thank you. Okay, next would be for building repairs and upgrades. System-wide, this includes Plimpton electrical upgrades, refurbish the Walpole High School facade, and then there would be for window, floor, and door replacements, painting, HVAC repairs throughout the town. And I must have had a absent-minded here when I did this one here, so okay, those upgrades were requested for $375,000, and it was approved, and that would be out of free cash.
School department.
Okay, next is school department. A request for 2 modular classrooms at the Boyden School. There are currently space issues there, and it's an expected increase in enrollment there. These would be more like, more permanent, I think.
So they're referred to them as modulars rather than portables, like what Old Post Road had. So these are designed to be a 25, 30-year-old building versus something that comes in on a trailer and stays on a trailer. These are permanent buildings mounted on a foundation. So they're similar to what a structure you build traditionally, but just manufactured.
Mark? Through you. Operating costs of those modules, you'll be able to cover that within the utilities and school budget?
Yeah, I mean, they include HVAC, so they'll have that ability, but yeah, it would be covered within our budget.
Ron?
Just a quick, so we don't have modulars at OPR anymore?
We've kind of retrofitted them to the point where.
I was gonna say,
modulars.
we got a good life on those.
Yeah. We replaced the roof, we replaced some of the foundation.
Okay.
Yeah.
$1 million was requested for that, and it's recommended out of free cash, $950,000. There was a request for HVAC at one of the elementary schools for $500,000. That is not requested to be, recommended to be funded right now, but we're working on that, right, Jim? So,
Yeah.
HVAC, yeah.
Oh,
so-
yes, yeah.
So,
Can I ask a question about just HVAC at the elementary schools? Now that the middle school is all set, the high school will be all set in theory in a couple of years. What's the plan with the remaining 3 elementary schools in their HVAC situation?
So fourth one, Elm, is obviously done already. So all the schools have been weatherized, so additional installation's been put in place in the setup for eventually having HVAC. It's a phased-in approach that we're looking for, so that initiated with this request here. This came up, this is a point that came up with collective bargaining, which we're starting another round of bargaining this year. So we wanted to show, the school committee wanted to show due diligence on this. We have some money to do a study, that would be the initial piece, and then we would start to add it. We have been adding HVAC to small areas like offices and things of that sort, but on the large scale, the buildings are not, HVAC, or not, they don't have air conditioning.
Thank you.
Next was a request for playground padding at the Boyden School. That request was for $75,000, and that is not recommended at this time.
Question on that, Ed. Excuse me. $75,000. Is the PAC going to be able to help with putting that in? I know they get tagged with so many things that they help with, but if it's really that important, could they help, or is this a wish more so than a need?
This is definitely a need.
It's definitely a need.
The padding's at the end of its useful life. It's deteriorating. We've done repairs on it, but it needs to be replaced. We've had a couple of vendors look at it. One came in at 125, I think, or 110, somewhere above 100,000. This one was clearly less. This is the original installer. So we've done our best to get the price down, keep it as minimal as possible, but it really needs to be replaced.
And 75,000 is beyond what the PACs can do. They can't do.
True, that's a
that
lot.
high.
It is a lot, and they get asked to do so much.
Well, that's just it.
Thank you.
Okay, next would be the water department. This is for a TTHM design at the Willis Treatment Plant. This is designed for an ultraviolet treatment of the water to remove the byproducts that were created during the disinfectant process. That request is for $650,000, and that is what is recommended out of the water retained earnings.
And I guess I have a question about this one, and I think the next one. I'm curious what we physically get at the end of the design. I don't.
Can I just let the record?
Design will get us to the bid package.
And then that's a filter that goes in? What?
No, this is strictly for the design permit and the bidding process.
Yep.
And then we'll go to competitive bid for the actual construction of the system.
Okay, construction of the system, but what is the system? That's what I wasn't.
UV.
Okay.
ultraviolet.
Thank you.
How long does that take? Don't get comfortable. How long does that take to install hypothetically?
Installation is probably, with supply chain issues still occurring, probably a year and a half.
So hypothetically, it could be a 2 to a 3 year out before anything actually gets done. Okay.
Hopefully not, but it could be.
Realistically, almost a year for this and that, yeah, okay.
Don't go far, Rick. So the next is the PFAS design at the treatment plan. This is for the design and permitting of the PFAS removal system, a treatment to remove the forever chemicals that are being built up there. And that request was for $850,000, and that is what is recommended out of water retained earnings.
So just to address this, I found my notes from 4/29/24. A few years ago, we worked to join a nationwide lawsuit similar to the opioid lawsuit, like 3M, DuPont, and there's one other company that they're getting a settlement from. So we're set to receive somewhere between $4.2 and $4.7 million, with some of it paid over a 10-year period, 70% of it coming up front in the first 2 years, and then they're going to phase it in. So the thought process here is we're getting this money. A lot of people have heard about PFAS and, forever chemicals that are out there. This will basically allow us to start the design of this a little bit ahead of time. We don't expect this lawsuit to be completely settled until towards the end of 2025, but at least we can get ahead of it. And then my thought process here is get the design similar to what we did with the high school, ready for bid documents, get those in once we get the money, and we're good to go.
Good. Smart.
Okay, all set. Next would be water main replacement. The request was for the project to replace approximately 55,000 feet of unlined cast iron pipe with new and sometimes larger cement lined ductile pipe. That request was for $2,450,000, and the recommendation is for $950,000 water retained earnings.
Why aren't we doing the whole thing? Okay, so basically, I worked with Rick and Scott on this one. So our water retained earnings were certified at $3.879 million. Sewer was $2.38 million. So we have a policy that's never formally been accepted by the commissioners, but we try to adhere to that policy, which allows us put aside 20% of the fund, 20% worth of the operating budget aside, try not to spend it, because there was a year back just after we bought Jarvis Farm where it got incredibly low, just I think a few $100,000. So this allows us to leave some reserves in there, fund a lot of these projects that are priorities as listed here, and the retained earnings and the sewer earnings, for a total of $2.2 million roughly. I went to Rick and Scott and I said, can you make it work for the 900? There's some other projects that were appropriated for about $2 million or so each over the years. You might recall that we borrowed for some of these. And the answer was, yeah, we could close out because they're completed, the work's done, and just roll it forward to next year. Anything to add? Well, good, yeah.
Unrelated, but what's going on with the new system or new water house, the Mylod Field stuff?
Backup supply.
Backup supply.
Oh, that.
It's a headache.
It's what?
It's a headache.
It's the sewer and water.
It's basically at a standstill.
Yeah, they've asked for a lot of information. We've provided it. They've asked us for some additional information that we'll have to gather for them. No decision's been made. A year ago, they thought we'd have something on the table for you here to connect to the MWRA. There was talk about doing 1 million gallons per day. Then there was talk about 1 million gallons backup system. We need some clear direction from the commissioners, and they're still weighing their options.
So what we are doing, Doug, is we're currently exploring School Meadowbrook aquifer for the installation of satellite wells in close proximity to two of our existing wells. And we punched like 6 holes, and 2 of them are very favorable. So we may be able to keep this thing in-house and supplement our supply that way.
Thank you.
Good, good. That would be very good. I'll have to look into MWRA.
All right, sewer department.
Sewer Department. The next item is Ganawati Sewer Pump Station Rehabilitation. This is to rehab a 23-year-old facility. This will be the 8th and last pump station to be reconstructed. The request was for $420,000, and that would be out of sewer retained earnings. All right, next for the sewer department would be truck number 461. That is a Ford F-150 pickup truck. It's a 4x4. It would be replaced with in-kind. The current truck is a 2014 vehicle that is used daily for daily operations. It has 110,000 miles on it. This is for $65,000, and that would be out of sewer retained earnings. Next would be vehicle number 444. That is also a Ford 150 4x4 pickup. Proposed replacement would be a Ford F-250 4x4 with the utility body, which would be much more practical for the type of use, daily use. That request is for $85,000, and that would be out of sewer retained earnings. Next would be a Ford F-250 4x4 fleet vehicle. This would be new to the fleet. Will be used for daily operations by the system operator. More practical for the intended use. And this would be also for $85,000, and that would be out of sewer retained earnings.
I'm sorry, you said this wasn't a replacement, this is a new one?
This here would be new, that last one would be new to the fleet. The other 2 are replacements of existing.
Mark?
Jim, I want to go to your free cash summary. Last line, operational holdbacks and emergency repairs and state aid reserve of $2.8 million. Do you have any idea what the state might pull back as a shortfall?
No, none whatsoever. I just know each month, we get a report from the State House News Service saying revenues aren't meeting projections. This has been going on for some time. And we received an extra, almost $700,000. I am really concerned at the pace that the state does their budgeting. It doesn't make much sense to me. And this is more or less, we're prepared if and when that day comes where we get those 9C cuts in the middle of the fiscal year, whether it be this year, at least this would allow us to plug and play and not have to panic, go to the school department and say, you need a big, $600,000 cut. We would supplement it at town meeting, close out the fiscal year, and, obviously redo all the budgets going into the next fiscal year quickly.
Yep.
So.
No, I was just looking at logic for the number of 2.8, and yeah, I understand if they gave us 700,000 and they renege on that real quick, and then we're up against it. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Any other questions on Article 9? If not, is there a motion?
I move favorable action on Article 9 for the items presented and approved by capital budget in the funding sources as stated in the handout.
And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jean. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstain? 13-0-0. And Article 10.
Article 10, the first item there would be to replace a fire engine. That would replace a 1999 E1 fire engine. That request is for $1.2 million, and that is what is recommended, and this would be out of general fund borrowing.
Mark?
You said lead time for the ambulance was 2 to 3 years. We're assuming the same for the fire engine?
The note I have here is approximate build time's 30 months, but I know they told the chief and assistant chief 2-3 years,
Okay.
And with this new truck coming in, is it gonna be able to fit into Station 2?
It'd be almost identical to engine 1 and engine 2, the last two trucks that we just got for half the price before everything went up.
Thank you.
What's that? Next would be the Allen Dam construction, rehabilitation of the dam overflow, spillway, and under drainage system. This is in the final stages of the design and almost ready for the construction. The total approximate construction cost would be $6,500,000, of which the town is responsible for 35%. So the request is for $2,275,000, and that would also be out of general fund borrowing. Okay, and then next would be the Willis WTP Lagoon construction. This is a requirement by the DEP to take action regarding the unlined sediment basin that was constructed in 1975. The proposed concrete basin will provide a permanent solution to the complaint. That request is for $2,265,000, and that would be out of water borrowing.
Please, Sue.
So where is this? I mean, I don't understand.
This is at the Willis Water Treatment Plant, which is the treatment plant for the Minebrook Aquifer on Leonard Road.
On which road?
Leonard.
Leonard Road, okay, all right. Thank you.
And could you, Audrey?
What is it?
What it is, it's called a lagoon, it's actually a sedimentation basin. When the membranes backwash, they discharge the unclean water, so to speak, into a basin. Those basins fill, the liquid overflows into the wetland. And the issue we're having is that the existing basins, as Ed said, were constructed in 1975, basically put us into violation because we can't maintain the levels of discharge that the EPA and the DEP want.
Is that good or what? 50 years he's been an employee come October. That's unbelievable.
I think he knows every foot of pipe personally.
This is awesome, I love him.
Any other questions on Article 10?
I move favorable action on Article 10 from borrowing for the purposes stated in the borrowing sources as stated in the memo.
Second?
Susan?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? 13-0-0. That
Article 12,
is-
you voted on Article 12 already, right?
Yep.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So with that, I don't know if you voted on the minutes yet, but I just did want to give you an update on the public hearing. I worked with school superintendent and school principal at the new middle school. Denny was okay with it. We're going to have the public hearing at the middle school on October 17th. That way, you guys, if you'd like to get a tour of the building, we can do that before or afterwards.
Where in the middle school?
I think we're going to probably do it in the cafeteria.
All right, so
yeah.
we're going Washington Street, or we do go in East Street?
By then, I
you
think
going
the
by
paving
bus?
will be done, so go in Washington Street. Yeah.
Washington
Well,
Street,
more to
okay.
come, but yeah, let's plan on that, and then if there's an audience, there's enough room. It'll work out nice. I think you guys will be impressed if you haven't seen it already.
We'll probably have more people at that meeting than what
Yeah.
we normally do,
Yeah.
just to see the school.
So I think it'll be pretty good to show it off a little bit. So,
We're going to have the public hearing at 7.
yeah.
So start at 6:30, as we usually do.
If we have anything, TBD, like, let's plan on 7, but right now, we're in good shape. So.
Well, I did not get to the minutes, so I'd like to wait on those and maybe do
I had
that.
sent back some revisions and I didn't
Okay.
see any feedback, so.
Yeah, I did also.
You want
They were
to
emailed.
table that then?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll save that for Denny, do the hard work.
It seems like some people didn't get it. Can we resend the minutes?
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
I got them, but not everybody did.
Yeah.
And also, again, through you, I'd encourage people to go to that DAM meeting, not the
Yeah.
DAM.
What?
DAM. Because I think it's,
Yeah,
you know, it's critically important to understand what's going on with that.
So when is that, next Tuesday?
Is town meeting going to be at the high school, or is there?
Jim wants it at the high school, so we're gonna have it there. And I think he's gonna put it out to town meeting, you know, do you mind changing? He wants a consensus to change the next one to the new school, so.
I never got that.
So the damn presentation's at the library, I believe, 7 o'clock, room 143.
And is it Tuesday or Thursday?
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
I know there's a message board up by
Next Tuesday.
East Walpole by the old clock tower. That's where I saw it on the ride home today.
Oh, okay, good.
I saw it on social media, so.
It was also in Hometown Weekly.
Yeah, I know. Fake news. All right,
Thank
that's
you all.
it.
He said next Tuesday.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, is there a second? Second, all right. All those in favor? Have a good night.